Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by the Bears Casino. Ronnie Rantz alongside TK Tommy Krysan with you. TK's joining us from Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. And Tommy, this week, an interesting week in football. You got the New Orleans Saints, who are probably many think are going to be the worst team in the NFL, and there's no expectation and there's no excitement around the Saints. And yet, on the other side, the flip side is LSU, who they know who their quarterback is, Garrett Nussmeier. He's going to wear the number 18 jersey, which is a significant jersey, right? Matt Malk wore that number, won a national championship over 20 years ago, and that number's been passed down. And so he'll switch from 13 to 18, as Harold Perkins will now wear his third or fourth different number, in his time. He'll be number 7. But for LSU, the sky's the limit. I mean, if you listen to Brian Kelly, if you listen to people like Matt Moscona and Charles Hannegriff and Gordy Rush and folks that are out at practice and what they see compared to this year versus last year and all that, I mean, it's hard not to be optimistic. This is a pretty good football team from all expectations. I think. Uh, you know, 9-3, which would be a good year probably with this schedule, is going to seem disappointing because 9-3 is probably not going to get you in the playoff. And so you pretty much got to, I think, go 10-2. I think 10-2 will get you in the playoff most, this day and age. But that said, Tommy, there's a lot of excitement around this LSU football team, and the lines haven't really changed a whole lot. The betting lines for this Clemson game going back many, many months.
No, it really hasn't. And right, the excitement's in the air. Everywhere you go, people are saying game week. It's there. It's here. It's here. Even though you've had some college football over the weekend and all of that. But no, this was 3.5, 4.5. It's sitting at 4 this morning. Over and under was at 56.5. Something Hunter McCann likes the under a lot, and I kind of agree with that. It's sitting at 57.5. So, 6:30 national TV. Going to have Fowler and Herb Street on the call. That was announced today by ABC. So it's going to be exciting. Here's the big question I got. How many? I know a lot of LSU fans are going to Clemson. How many are going to get in the stadium? Okay. I'm thinking 30% of the crowd might be LSU.
Oof, that might
Too
be a little
high?
much.
Okay. Again, I was just thinking out loud there.
Mhm.
But, everybody's talking about this game from Clemson to LSU to the ACC to the SEC. National eyes will be on the game. It's here. It's game week, and looking forward to it. And so many unanswered questions about LSU, the receiver room, the offensive line, the running game, the defense. Is it going to be better under Blake Baker with Pyburn and all these transfers that are going to start? It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of anticipation. A lot of stuff will build up between now and Saturday night.
The thing about this football team and last night at a Tiger, LSU season kickoff dinner at Ruffino's that they do every year in honor of Ruffin Rodrigue. The money goes towards the whatever projects that Ruffin's family are supporting, which they donated money to the naming of the walk down the hill in his honor. If you go to the top of the hill over there by the Indian Mounds where LSU is, there's a sign and it shows like a video of all the walking down the hill, and it's named after him. And now he's moving on to a different a different entity that they're supporting, which is going to be in the business school in his name. It's going to be the Ruffin Rodrigue food and beverage hospitality type of degree, or maybe I think it's maybe a master's degree in hospitality in the food industry and how to run a restaurant and how to do all the different aspects of it. And it's a program that they started a couple of years ago, like a year and a half ago. And so last night at this dinner, Charlie spoke and Gordy spoke, and you get feeling pretty optimistic when you look at the roster and how much better it is this year than last year. But my biggest concern, Tommy, is you're playing a team on the road in Clemson in the first game as a group in their stadium, where the one thing about Clemson is that they have that cohesiveness, right? They have that they only have, I think, 4 or 5 transfers or something. They've been the fish swimming against the tide, kind of going in an opposite direction when it comes to all this transfer portal stuff. And as is Dabo Sweeney's not a fan of it, so he's got that continuity. He's got a roster that doesn't change in the day and age where everybody changes their roster, pretty much flips it from year to year. And so, I think there's some value in that. Just like in college basketball, there's value in those fourth and fifth year players and the guys that have played together a couple, 2, 3 seasons. They have the benefit of usually being a better basketball team over the talented younger bucks. I think that's the case here. Clemson gets some extra credit because they have the continuity and they're at home. And so I think this is a really good, going to be a good LSU football team. They just may not win the first game, Tommy.
I agree with you. Derry Beckwith talked about that last past Saturday on the radio, the cohesiveness or the chemistry or the playing together and knowing what the other guy's going to do. That comes with continuity and guys being around. And of course, Derry's been there, done that. So I thought he made some good points, and I'm agreeing with you. That's a big question. Like, especially like, 8 minutes to go in the game, if it's a one-score game either way, what's going to happen? Well, can they hang on? Or will they let it get away like they did against Southern Cal a few years last year? But so I mean, there's a lot to look at. So many questions. Many of them are going to get answered Saturday night, but not all of them. And they can lose this game and still be in the playoff, but they would certainly like to get off that schneid of losing that first game. We all know the story. So let's just see if they can't figure out a way to fly home from Clemson with a W.
Well, everybody looking forward to it. Going to be exciting. 6:30 Saturday night, and of course, talking about Herb Street. He's been all over ESPN the last couple of weeks because of Lee Corso's final game, retiring. His last time he's putting on the headpiece. I've been enjoying watching a lot of the social media videos and recaps of Corso's nearly 30 years working for ESPN and all the moments and what he means to ESPN, what he means to college football. To me, he's the Dick Vitale of college football. Dick Vitale put college basketball on the map for ESPN and for television in the 80s and 90s, and carried that over, until, just, I don't know, a handful of years ago. Dick Vitale towards the end of his career wasn't as important at the beginning, but those first 20 years, Dick Vitale was college basketball, and maybe even played in a different kind of role, a little more importance than Lee Corso. But then what Lee's been able to do to transform college game day, and I mean, if you're a college football fan, Tommy, whether you watch it live or whether you don't watch it live, you go, well, who did Corso pick? You know what I mean? Whether you agree with them or not, I think it's silly or not, like it mattered. It mattered to the thousands that were there. It mattered to the millions that were watching on TV. It mattered to, you just wanted to know, did he pick my team or not? I mean, that's something that's never going to happen again.
Well, and here's the thing, I've said this a million times. The letter E in ESPN stands for entertainment. Lee Corso entertained. Okay, like you said, like him or not, or you thought it was silly, or you didn't agree with him, he still entertained, and everybody at about 11 o'clock every Saturday morning wanted to know who did Corso pick, whose headgear did he put on, and of course LSU's been involved in that many times. Many of the premier programs have, so it'll be a special Saturday, and it's going to be the Ohio State Texas game, which is an 11 o'clock kick Saturday. So, he's going to put that on for the last time, and we'll see who he picks, and it'll get talked about. And then, the whole weekend will be highlights of that. But he entertained, and he's a significant factor in the explosion of college football in the last bunch of years, like Vitale did for basketball. He entertained. There's no question about it, like him or not.
The New Orleans Saints, speaking of no E, and they're just going to take the E out of new in Orleans, and it's going to be Nolans. I mean, Tommy, this thing just seems to be getting worse and worse by the minute. When you watch the Saints this past preseason game against the Broncos, their last preseason game, you got two quarterbacks that have everything on the line. They are playing for their job from a standpoint of trying to win the job, trying to be the starter, and neither really took a step forward, in my opinion. It's you flip a coin on these two.
Well, I mean, somebody asked me the other night, Ron, they said, "Is it possible the Saints could go 0-17?" I said, "Well, anything's possible. I doubt it." So you would think one of the 17 games, the other team has a bad day,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
Saints have a good day. Okay, the football gods would say, "No, they're not going to go 0-17." However, if this thing gets to 0-8, 0-9, 0-10, then they'll start talking about that. But the Saints, they hate to use the word rebuild, but this is what it is, and there's no reason to be optimistic. The Cardinals, okay, the Cardinals are not anything to write home about. They're a 6-point favorite in the dome on September the 7th. Let that sink in.
Hmm. You and I both expect Spencer Rattler to be named the quarterback, and we know that Kellen Moore, the first year head coach, is going to name the starter at some point this week. Didn't say when. And look, if I'm Kellen Moore, I wait till the very last second to name a quarterback. At least it gives you a little bit of something, mess with the Cardinals, if anything, make them have to wait a couple days before they can fully prep for your quarterback.
Well, and here's the other thing. By tomorrow at 3 o'clock in Louisiana time, all rosters have to be at 53 guys, including the Saints. And, there's going to be some big names cut. Major Burns was cut. That was an injury cut by the Bears. Some other guys already have hit the wire. There's a lot of cuts came out yesterday, last night. There'll be more. And then, of course, by tomorrow afternoon, there's 53 players. And then the next day, they can add to practice squads, 16, maybe 17 people, depending on qualifications of one of the last ones on that. So about 1,100 and something guys are going to get cut by tomorrow, and some have already been cut. And then we'll see what happens with the practice squads.
The thing that everyone that is interested in the soap opera that is the Cleveland Browns and what will happen to Shador Sanders. Will he be cut? Will he be re-signed to the practice squad? Will they keep him on the active list? They put a draft pick on him, much in the fifth round, much lower than anybody thought. Almost everybody thought first, second round, and so here we are. Shador Sanders did not play well in his, so he had one good one. He didn't play in the second one because of an injury. Third one, he played awful. What does that mean for Shador? Well, he's on a team with four quarterbacks. So what does it mean for all of them? And
Well,
Pickett, who's a guy who's going to be the backup or the third string quarterback. If Kenny Pickett is available, if I'm the Browns, I'd probably consider trading him. Kenny, Pickett or Sanders or whatever. But like Kenny Pickett's got some value. It's a guy who started in this league and could maybe help a team. I mean, I don't know how I don't know I don't know what the Saints think about Kenny Pickett, but I don't know. I feel like who knows, there might be some value there, but they have the most interesting decisions to make next to the Giants, and that is what do they do with that roster? I am so intrigued to see if Shador Sanders makes a team, gets cut. If he does get cut, will he clear, and will the Browns re-sign him, or will somebody else add him to their uh, to their full-time roster?
Well, Ronnie, all NFL teams make decisions that don't end up being correct. Okay, every team does it in lots of categories, but the Browns seem to have made more bad decisions in the last 20 years than most teams. Okay, and if they put four quarterbacks on the roster, that's a bad decision. That's never been done before. And I mean, if you can't figure out what three you want, and then you cut one, put them on the practice squad in case you run into some injuries, I feel bad for Browns fans. I mean, you can't shorten the offense, the defense, or special teams by adding another guy on that roster. I mean, unless he's not going to be active on the game day, because usually the third quarterback's inactive unless there's two significant injuries.
Right.
So, I mean, four quarterbacks is just, I mean, that's just mind boggling. Make a decision, figure it out, whatever it may be, figure it out. Trade somebody, cut somebody. I'm like you, we'll see what happens between now and tomorrow afternoon, but man, Cleveland Browns, they're not as bad as the Saints because they got Joe Flacco, who's got numbers that speak for themselves. The Saints don't have anybody like that, but that's the two of the worst teams in the league. You mentioned the Giants. Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss product, via Southern Cal, really had a big time preseason, and he didn't do what Sanders and Tyler Shuck did. Hold the ball too long, and you can't backpedal. You got to step forward. Everybody knows that. But I guess when the bullets are flying and you're in the NFL, you know it's something you don't do. You're trying to extend plays. Well, guys don't stay open in the NFL. They stay open in college. So it's getting talked about everywhere you turn. And come tomorrow at 3:00, and there's gonna be some big names cut around the league. There's gonna be some guys, some veterans, some guys with some pretty good credentials. They're all gonna be cut. So that's the way it goes. But Saints fans, man, I don't know. The future's not bright.
By the way, Shador Sanders sacked 5 times in this preseason game the other day. I mean, we're not talking about he played the whole game. He played a small window and he was sacked 5 times because he's just not throwing away the football. He's
Well,
holding on
it,
to it, holding on to it.
it's been pointed out 4 to 5 linemen that were in the game when he got sacked were among the cuts by Cleveland. So he wasn't out there with the ones or
He
even the
wasn't
twos.
out there with the ones, Tommy, but like, and we saw this in college, right? There were times he ran around like Fran Tarkenton, and he's more like Tarkenton Fran than Fran Tarkenton with his speed. And it's just that, he at some point you run around and run around to throw the ball, whether it's to throw it away or to find a receiver. And he's running around, and there were times where he had opportunity to get rid of the football, and he just didn't. So you live and learn. We'll see if the Browns hold that against him or what's going to happen. It's going to be so I can't wait to watch the documentary one day on Netflix behind the scenes on this whole thing because that's coming.
By the way, Ronnie, breaking news for you. I've watched a good bit of the FCC Netflix documentary with the Weeks family hunting and I mean the card game. I mean, I'm not through the whole thing, but more than halfway. So I figured you'd be happy to hear
And what's some takeaways on what you've watched so far?
that. I like Nussmeyer a lot. I just think he's got the it factor. You know how when I don't know what it is, but he's got it. I like Nussmeyer a lot with that. Brian Kelly, I don't know
Doesn't
if
come
I.
across great in it.
No,
Doesn't come across great.
it comes like it was orchestrated. Like they said,
Mhm.
okay, Brian, follow this script. We want you to say this, then we're going to go away, then we're going to come back. We want you to say that. That's what it looked like to me. I don't want to say staged, but it looked too robotic to me. And I'm not at practice. I don't. Maybe that's how he is all day, every day at practice. I don't know, but that Kelly didn't do himself any favors, especially if LSU were to go 8-4 or 7-5. There'll be a coaching change, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, you say that, but that's easy to roll off the tongue that there'll be a coaching change. There'll be a coaching, but they owe him over $50 million if there's a coaching change. LSU ain't got that kind of money, so folks, settle in. Like it doesn't matter
Okay.
what you think of Brian Kelly, unless you got $50 million you want to throw away. That dude's going to be the coach for a while. Um, what else we got, TK? We had the big tournament in
PGA.
golf. Tommy Fleetwood. You talk about the old famous Steve Young wins the Super Bowl, talks about getting a monkey off his back, back in the 90s. Well, Tommy Fleetwood finally did that. This guy has never won a PGA Tour event, and he has been in contention and a great golfer for a long time and got it done and saved it for one of the biggest ones.
Well, he's won 7 times around the world. Never won on a PGA Tour. His 165th start was just this weekend, and he's got 30 top 5 finishes. 30. That's a lot. Okay, let that sink in. And he finally got it done. He got the lead. He hung on. He made some big shots. A few other guys hit some bad shots. And Fleetwood, a class act. I've always liked interviews with him. He's not one of the biggest guys in the world, but he can hit the golf ball. And if all said, sooner or later he's going to win. Well, he wins $10 million. He won $24 million his first 10 years on tour. Won $10 million yesterday, so he deserved to win the tournament this weekend. Scotty Scheffler tied for 4th, hit a ball in the water on 15, and if there was any chance that he might creep in there and somebody else back up, that went away when he hit it in the water. And LSU's Sam Burns tied for 7th, so quite a hefty pay. That $2 million for Burns for tying for 7th. So that was a good deal. I watched a good bit of the golf, and now the golf world will turn to Bethpage Black in the Ryder Cup. Keegan Bradley, who played some pretty good golf this weekend, He will announce the captain's picks. I want to say Wednesday of this week. We'll find out exactly who will be on the Ryder Cup. Sam Burns thinking he did enough. He said he thought he did enough this weekend to, hopefully get picked for that Ryder Cup team. So, and we'll talk about that later in the week amongst all of the football that we got.
Can Keegan Bradley put himself
He
on the
can.
team?
That
Okay.
is an option. He could.
I mean,
but I don't think he will do
I
that.
don't think he will either. But at the same time, like if there was if someone else was picking, he's a guy who very much might end up on the team.
Yeah, but the dual role thing, I think he'll just
Yeah.
kick back, or he could look at it and say, for 2 years from now, I'm not going to make the Ryder Cup team because he's been hot the last couple of months. But for a
Right.
few years before that, he just kind of existed. So he might say, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how that
Yeah,
goes.
he played well. He played well at times over the weekend. But yeah, good luck for Sam. I personally, I think he's trying to sell himself to get on the team. It might be a little bit too much, too late. He came in, I think, ranked 28th on the of the points as far as the people, and did he finish in seventh? It's not like he won it. Not like he was in the top five. Did win in seventh move up enough in Keegan's mind to pass a bunch of people? It's going to be interesting. And the other thing that's going to be interesting is what they do. 2 years ago when they played over in Paris, they didn't play in between East Lake and the Ryder Cup, and they felt like a lot of the players got a little cold. Just practicing wasn't enough, and so I think there's a push to make sure they play in the tournament a week before or whatever the Ryder Cup. They want these guys to play in it, so we'll see if that makes a difference. Looking forward. Do we know when they're going to announce the team, CK?
Wednesday afternoon, I believe.
This Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
And look, that's another show you get to watch on Netflix is the golf one, Full Swing. And in Full Swing, they show the behind the scenes and all of the calls and the Ryder Cup and all that kind of stuff. I think there was even a Ryder Cup documentary that they did. The heartbreaking calls, the ones that go their way and the ones that don't. Keegan Bradley is a guy that most famously didn't get picked a few years ago and felt like he wanted to be picked, and it was a heart-wrenching video. All right, what else we got, Tommy?
Well, just again, you got a couple more days to get some Rougarou merchandise. Connect on social media. Nice video coming out with a recap of the championship
Tomorrow.
Yeah, so we got to get that Rougarou merchandise going. And it's football season's here. Little breather for the NFL until they get going, and then of course the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
September 10th. September 10th.
You had a big meeting this weekend,
yeah,
right?
That's going to be the release date. September 10th. We'll announce the 2026 Hall of Fame class. September 10th. So looking forward to that.
All right, that's certainly there. Looking forward to that as well. So other than that, Ronnie, let's get ready for the week. And Sports Shorts Daily will be back Wednesday morning. I'll be over at Tremonti's where they got that big meat sale this Friday. You don't want to miss that. They're publicizing the heck out of it, so you don't want to miss that. And of course, don't forget Court Street Cafe, breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days a week. Got the Sunday brunch back in play with the mimosas flowing and the great food. Jason and the staff do a great job. Stop by and tell Jason you said hello, that you saw it on Sports Shorts Daily. Red beans and rice for lunch today. They got dinner specials. They got a dinner of the week, drink specials, daiquiri machines. They'll have a lot of football on this fall. That's all here at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. It's where we're at on Mondays, and looking forward to that. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Hey, don't forget to like and share this show. We appreciate that very much. On behalf of Ronnie Rantz, I'm Tommy Krysan. Have a great day, everyone.